Shadows of Brimstone.
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 Shadows of Brimstone. Shadows of Brimstone. Shadows of Brimstone.
Now, this was a little difficult, and I'll explain why I say what the crap is going on here as I go through this. Welcome back to this Board Game Officer. Today we are doing another review of reviews. Of course, your guys' favorite. So today we are going to do Shadows of Brimstone, the Lost Tombs, and the Hell Train. So this does end, as you can see, in 67 hours from the time of recording. Therefore, I hope to get this up before the 48-hour mark. What we're going to do today, I have watched over 10 videos of reviews of this game. Now, this was a little difficult, and I'll explain why I say what the crap is going on here as I go through this, because it's kind of mind-blowingly weird, I think. However, it is a well-loved game, so we are going to go ahead and jump on in and see if you should back this game. So, usually I do a quick thing over the Kickstarter page itself. However, I'm not going to do that just because it's almost at the end already. There's enough things going over the Kickstarter page itself. So I am just going to go over the reviews so you know whether or not this game is for you or not. So, as always, I like to start with a bad because I always like to end on a good note. The number one bad is my shirt is stained. I got kids. Sorry about that. Well, I got some stains on my shirt, but I'm going with it anyways. So, bad about the game. So the first thing is someone stated that they created a cheat sheet of all the rules themselves, and it was the largest cheat sheet that they had for any games that they have. Meaning, there are a lot of rules in this game. So, beware of that. And piggybacking on that comment is that it takes a lot to get into it. However, in parentheses there, they said that it is well worth it. However, definitely takes a lot to get in there. Next is that it is a huge table hog. It is going to take up any table you have. If you're just playing on a kitchen table, it probably won't be big enough. If you've got a good board gaming space, that might work. So just be ready to use up all the table space that you have. Now, this can be kind of a good or a bad, but it can very much turn into a lifestyle game. By lifestyle game, I mean that it could take over your life. Not really, but meaning that there is so much content. So if you're a completionist, I would stay away from this because it is going to suck all the money out of your wallet. So that's the bad part of it. I know a lot of people like that about this game, and so that could be a good thing for you. But if you're getting into it, just beware that it might take all your money if you really want everything. Now, someone actually compared this campaign to the very first campaign back in 2010, and it pretty much looked identical. Like, there's no reviews on it, there's no playthroughs, there's no how to plays, there's no nothing of videos on here, except for this little introductory video here, which is actually kind of useful. A lot of times these things are just like, oh, here's some cool music and sounds and pictures related to tell you anything. But this actually has a video of them actually talking about the game and then some pictures and stuff. So it's actually pretty informative. I actually like that about this. That was not there when it first started. They added that later on within the campaign. But going back to my original comment, it's not very inspired. They look identical, meaning it doesn't feel like they're trying very many new things, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. Bad thing if you're trying to get into it and you're like, oh, it just looks the same as the old one, so why get into it now if I didn't get into the other ones earlier? But if you love this game and you loved it when it first came out, that actually might speak to you, the way that it's put out and what it looks like. So that's give or take whether that's a good or bad for you. Now, it was stated that it does say it's a campaign and story driven. However, take that with a grain of salt because there is story to it, but it's not a really strong story driven like Madara or Teneri's Adventures or something like that really is story driven. So just know that it's not super story driven, but there's a story to it, and it's kind of more of a loose campaign than your normal campaign Teneri's Adventure type of game. Just as a caveat, that might be a good thing or a bad thing, but just know that going into this. As kind of stated before, there's not a whole lot on this Kickstarter. So it was actually tough looking for videos because no one made any videos of this. As I just did the Sword and Sorcery review of reviews as well. Go ahead and check that out in the link below. However, there's just nothing there. So if you really don't know anything about this game, this is not the place to come to this campaign because it is not going to help you out to figure out whether or not this game is for you or not. So I think they really tailor to the original backers of this game and who already like it because they are not helping you get into this game. There is a section below that says what this game's about, but you know, it's a handful of bullet points and that's it. So it tells you nothing about the gameplay, the story, or what type of mechanics are even in the game. So if you're trying to get into this is not the campaign to look through. You definitely have to go back and look at videos to see whether or not this general game is for you or not. Now, this is another big thing to know. Their last Kickstarter, which was dated to deliver in September of 2020, has just started fulfillment within the last month. So that's almost 2 years late. Doesn't mean they won't deliver. Just be ready for it to be late, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they fix stuff and they'll be on time. You never know. Miracles happen. But just so you know that. Now, this is the part that comes to what in the world is going on here. I just don't understand it in any way, really. So this Kickstarter features 2 brand new standalone core sets for Shadows of Brimstone. So you could have one or both of these, and you could play it all by itself. Like, they are not expansions. They are core sets in of itself, which from first thought I was like, oh, that's great. I could get either one and still play whatever I want. So if you just want one of them, that's a great deal. That's awesome. Which is interesting because I feel like this is tailored towards the returning backers. Except for this part. This part just makes no sense to me. And I just, like, why are you doing 2 core sets? That means if you have the last Kickstarter, that was a core set, and you buy 2 more of these, which are both core sets, you're going to have, like, thousands of health tokens. You're going to have thousands of condition tokens, right? All those tokens that come in core sets, and usually not expansions, are coming with that. So you are going to have so much extra content that you don't need. I just don't know why everything is a core set. Make one core set and then make all these expansions. I don't feel like having so many core sets is a good thing. I mean, I guess it can be a good thing, but I feel like that's a very marginal spot that it's a good thing. Anyways, I don't understand what they're going for, but I can't really argue with them with over $1 million and 3,000 backers, right? See, I can't say they're doing something wrong particularly because they're succeeding phenomenally. You know, that's 1,000% achieved of that goal of 100,000. So I can't get mad at them. However, I just don't understand why they're doing 2 core sets rather than just adding 2 expansions, yet the opportunity to back the core set. That's normal. I don't know, maybe they're trying this new thing. Now, one thing I just wanted to note here, they do make a good system, so hopefully you don't miss it. But the stretch goals are tied to which pledge level you're going at. Which makes sense, right? If you only get the Egyptian one, you don't want all the other stretch goals for Hell Train because you're not going to be able to do anything with those. So it makes sense, but I just wanted to note that out, that it does matter. If you just get the Egyptian one, it's the Scarab level. If you just get the Hell Train, it's the roller level. The Pharaoh level is both. So that could be a good thing or bad thing, but I want to note that out because that could be a very bad thing if you didn't realize that. Also, another thing that was noted is that they're not best communicators. They're decent during the campaign. However, after last campaign, they kind of pretty much blew everyone off and didn't really communicate very well. They still ended up delivering. So I think your back being safe in that aspect is really well, but you're not going to get many questions answered in the meantime. Unless they've been better. They could be better. Don't get me wrong. One thing to note is that the miniatures do come unassembled. Not super bad like Warhammer type of stuff, but there is some assembly required. Just to know that could be a good thing or a bad thing, I guess. And someone did note that it seems like there's not as many enemy variables within these games. However, I believe that is not counting the stretch goals. So coming into this with the Kickstarter, probably the best part because you're getting all those stretch goals, so you're getting a lot more variable with the enemies and gameplay and everything with that. One thing about the game itself, it is a roll to move, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, but it's kind of outdated because no dungeon crawler really uses that anymore. So that is could be a cool mechanic or just an annoying mechanic, depending on how you see that. Now, on to the good stuff that we all want to see in here. So the number one thing is the high replayability of this game. People have talked about just the core set alone without any of the expansions or any add-ons or anything has hours and hours and hours of play and replayability, because each time you go through a dungeon or a level or anything, you are flipping a card over to see what is revealed. So that dungeon deck is going to change every time, so your dungeon is going to be different every single game, which is quite awesome in the sense of replayability because everything's going to be different. There's always going to be something different spawning, so replayability is a plus. This can be a plus or a negative, but it is old school. It definitely was made back in 2010. So it's got that old school kind of mechanic, very based off of more of Warhammer stuff, hence the roll to move and stuff. So good thing or bad thing, but it definitely has that old school feeling. I actually want to show you a little trick here on Kickstarter. It's actually really kind of cool. So if you scroll down here, you come down to where it first states what's in the box. And if you go up just slightly, so if you see my mouse, you go halfway up the mouse, and then you could click right here, and this will pop up. You click, boom! subscribe to Board Game Officer if you like these reviews. Now, this was interesting. Go ahead and correct me on this down in the comments below. But someone stated that, like, with all the expansions and stuff, that there's like portals that take you all to the different worlds. Like, you could go up to like the space inventory, and then you could go to the Wild West, and then you could come to Egypt as a whole continuing system. So you could have this like space weapon while you're in Egypt or in the Wild West. Or so that aspect, I don't understand it, but they said that they really liked it and thought it was pretty cool. So I did want to note that. Multiple talked about how cool of themes these are, the Lost Tombs and the Hell Train. People were really enthralled with those themes. Rob's tabletop world, he stated that you will not be disappointed with any Shadow of Brimstone game. The company and the game itself are very well made, so there is a lot of love for this game. As seen here with the stretch goals, there are a lot of miniatures. Once again, good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. It gives you all that variability, which is awesome. And going along with this is you have an alt-gender miniature. So there are male and female miniatures for pretty much anything that's coming out. So that's really cool, very inclusive with everything. League of Games did call this a beer and pretzel game because it's very in-depth, but it is kind of a lighter game. And one thing that's cool is there's so much content for this. However, it is all compatible. So even these new core sets can be played with the old core sets and all the expansions that come out and all extra add-ons and all that little stuff. All of it is compatible, which makes this world huge and immersive and awesome. So that's definitely a big thing going for this game. As I said before, it is a very well-loved game. There are a handful of people that are not big fan of it, but I would say the majority of everyone that I listen to that has played this game absolutely loves this game. Even the Grumpy Meeple, he talks about how he loves this whole thing. He's probably going to back everything. Yeah, his whole video was pretty negative, yet he's still backing everything, right? So someone who's even upset with a lot of things that are going on within it, he still is backing it because it's just a good game. So I feel like that's a big thing to note there. Board Game Co. did talk about how this game will definitely hold its value. Looking at the last campaign that just started fulfilling, all of that, people are selling it for more at this point right now. Therefore, the chances of this holding its value is definitely a high one. So if you're looking at that, you could back and you have a good chance of getting all your money back if you don't like it. There is a town phase in between each mission. Everyone just talked about how great that town phase is. So if you like more than Dungeon Crawler but a little bit more story, that does have a pretty good town phase. And pretty much the game as a whole is pretty well. You just have to get over that initial learning and understanding the game. And if you're okay with those kind of older style mechanics, because it does seem that they haven't changed a whole lot in the mechanics within this game. So should you back or should you not back it? I think it really comes down to your taste. If you kind of like this, but you don't have any Shadows of Brimstone, this is a great place to start. So if you're like, I do like this game, I think I'll like it, this is the place to start. Don't go buy the old, well, you can buy the old stuff, but meaning I think because of all the stretch goals, this is a great value and a great place to jump in if you are wanting to jump into the Shadows of Brimstone. Problem is this campaign just doesn't sell it to you, but if you go back and watch the videos, you think it's for you, you think you might like it, this is a great back because as Alex stated in Board Game Co., it probably is going to hold its value more likely than not. So it's kind of a safe back in that way as well. If you end up not liking it, you might be able to sell it. Now, if you are not so sure if you'll like this game, if you're not a big fan of that roll to move, I know I've said that multiple times, but I think that's probably one of the hardest mechanics to come over. I have never played a roll to move, and it does not seem intriguing to me because I want to know if I could reach my enemy or not, right? Because I might be like, okay, I want to do that, roll, get a 1, I make 1 movement, that's my turn, because I can't do anything else. I don't know, maybe it's better than I'm thinking it is. I've never played this game, but that's one thing that worries me a lot with this game. So if you're not too worried, there's so many other games out there, I don't think this is a absolute need unless you really think that you're gonna like it. However, as I said before, the overall consensus is pretty high for this game. Looking at BGG here, there's 3 core sets right now, and they all seem to be around 8.0 to 8.5. So take that. I don't know if you really follow those BGGs, but if you do, just take that into account. It's a pretty highly rated game. So if you're just wondering and you don't know, I don't think it's a horrible place to try it out to see if you do like it. Who's going to back it out of everyone that I launched? The Grumpy Meeple said that, as I said, he's going to back pretty much everything. Alex from Board Game Co., he has not played it yet, so he's not really jumping into it right now because he's trying to save money is what he stated. Bauer's Game Corner, he said he's not going to back it. He's never played it, And once again, this does not sell it to you if you've not played it before. So he said he was not very interested in League of Games. He didn't really state whether or not he was going to jump into it. He seemed like he did like the game in general, but he didn't really state whether or not he was for sure going to back it or not. King of Average definitely is going to back it. He backed the last Gate of Valhalla. He's definitely going in on this as well because he really likes the Shadow of Brimstone realm there. On Tabletop, didn't say whether or not he's going to do it, but he talked very, very positive about it. So I would guess he was at least get some of it there. Rob's Tabletop World did state that Shadows of Brimstone is his favorite game of all time. One of his favorite games of all time. So therefore, he is backing all of it. And there you have the review of reviews. Go ahead and leave a comment down below of what game you want to see next. Click the links here to see my other review of reviews. And I will see you later.